Hey everyone, it's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into not only tonight's games, but also I wanted to do my playoff prediction, so I'm going to do that. But we had a good night. We went 5-2 in the NBA. A lot of these were games again where I just felt, in this particular game, for example, the Timberwolves. I felt they didn't win the game, but I felt there was a good enough chance that they could win, and then having the points to cover is just icing on the cake. Thunder, I'm going to go into why I had them winning over the Pacers. Kings over the Lakers, Wizards winning. All these were for a reason. So we weren't right on every one of them, but I have a very long-term vision as far as not only my betting metrics, but also who I think is going to make the playoffs. So this is just from the last 2 days. So obviously a leg one, like when we had the Raptors covering the Bucks, they didn't. We would go leg two, which we did with Louisville today, and they didn't win either, which is okay. We go leg threes all the time. Tulsa did come through here on leg two, and we about split college. And then for the NBA, going 5-2, we did well. So we closed a total of 10 sequences, and we don't have any leg threes. We have a couple heading to a leg three, but I have no doubt that we'll close them out. So we're up 68 units simply since the 27th of December when we were able to restart. But I want to go into, so I feel like we've had a good gauge over the NBA, and I think it's for a reason. I think that they've already telegraphed which of these teams needs to make the playoffs. So I'm going to go through every team and tell you if I have them making the playoffs or not. And just to make it quicker, what I basically did is I went through every week, and I tried to balance it out where I gave teams where I'm not being unfair to a team, but the teams that I think are pretenders I do have falling out. So, as you can see, when I go through every week, this is the playoff picture that I wind up getting. Okay. So you can see and the seeding might not be exact, the records might not be exact, I understand that. But this is basically a ballpark of where I expect these teams to be. So you can see for the play-ins, I do have the Lakers just missing out. I don't think they're getting in. I think they're pretenders. I think they're going to run it all year long and just lose out to a team like the Thunder that people can get behind, people think might actually make a run. So that's what I have there. And then for the East, nothing crazy. I just think the Pacers are pretenders. I think they're going to lose out a lot of their games. And you can see that I have the Wizards get in that 10th play-in spot. I do think the Wizards and I think it's gonna be the Wizards and the Hawks. I think the Hawks will edge them out. Hawks might even finish a little higher than 9th. Again, these might not all be concrete, but this is essentially what I have. Now you can see I also have almost the entire division here for the Celtics division getting in. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Raptors did, but I don't think they do. I have a lot of people telling me that they're basically giving up on the team. And to me, the Wizards make sense. They're scheduled down the line. I think they're a great play-in team. So you can see my Blazers, I still have them getting in. I think they're going to make a run. And if it were to go like this, I forget who plays. So I know that the play-in, I believe the Blazers would play the Nuggets in the first round. I think they're going to set something up where the Blazers play a team like Golden State. Now, I know it's going to be difficult because of the seeding, but it just makes sense for me. They also teased the Pelicans and the Blazers a lot, so we're going to see something very interesting along those lines. But here is who I have making the playoffs. Same teams as last year, except I think the Clippers get in lieu of the Jazz. I do think the Wolves get in. There's too much in that franchise. And I think the Blazers get in this year. And then as far as the East, it's basically the exact same, except like I've maintained from the beginning of the season, I think the Wizards and Knicks get in, with the casualties being, this year at least, the casualties being the Raptors, and that's just what I think happens. As far as the 9th seed, you can see I have the Wizards finishing just behind the Hawks. I will say the Bulls and Wizards are definitely expendable, so even though it finished like this, I actually do believe that the Wizards are going to get in ahead of the Bulls, so just for argument purposes here, we're going to go ahead and, again, I even gave the Bulls some wins that they probably shouldn't get, just because I was trying to be fair. But based off the way they've treated the Bulls and the way they've treated the Wizards, I do think it stands to reason that the Wizards will get in here ahead of the Bulls. So let me just go here and make it official. I thought the way I had it, if the way it finaled out, I thought it was Wizards with the 8th or 9th. But yeah, as you can see, it's only about one game, and I don't think it's going to go the Bulls' way. So here's one where we go. I think Philly beats the Bulls there. And then we'll give Washington this over the Spurs. As you can see, I actually was trying to be generous to other teams because I wasn't just trying to make it where the team got in regardless. But I see that this makes way more sense to me. They just edge out the Bulls. So I just noticed for some reason. And there's only 81. For some reason, I thought there were 82. So as you can see, some teams have only played 80. It's just because it hasn't finalized yet. But this is how I have it finishing out anyway. I have these 10 teams, if you will. Now, who do I have? If you want to know why I have these teams, they're all draws, okay? The Wizards, they put a lot into Beal and into Porzingis. And OKC, they got Holmgren next year. They got Dort. They got SGA. They got a lot of players. The Wolves got 3 players between them, probably 300 million. So, they're going to be pushed. And I've been saying that about the Blazers all year. I think they'll give the Nuggets the top seed so people think they actually have a chance. They might go ahead and give it to Memphis. They might give it to the Pelicans. But I think they're going to give it to the Nuggets so people think that they're a force to be reckoned with. And the Celtics, I think, get the best record in the NBA because of Bill Russell. And I wouldn't be shocked if they finished with the record. It'd be tough, but like 60-22 or 60-21, whatever. I think if they were to get 60 wins, it'd be pretty interesting. But this is who I like for the playoffs. Now, as far as the NBA Finals, who do I like? Well, I like the Sixers to beat the Clippers. And I don't think it lets me advance. Let me see if it lets me advance. If it does, I'll go ahead and simulate it out. But no, it looks like it won't let me. Let's see if I go next. Yeah, so this will just... Okay, so it just shows me the bracket. All right, that's fine. I do think the Sixers beat the Clippers for the reason being it's the Doc redemption story, right? So Doc couldn't cut it on the Clippers. At least that's the story. He finally got it done with the Celtics after years of doubt, and people are still doubting him. And he hasn't been treated like the other coaches. So I think there's going to be a Doc redemption story. And it is funny because they just played a couple days ago. I think it was 2 days ago. They just played. And to me, the Doc redemption story does stand to reason. I do think it makes a lot of sense that they wind up getting him to... After this year, they blamed him essentially for losing because Embiid got hurt. And they said, he shouldn't have let him play. And that's why they lost to the Celtics. I think this year he turns it around. Another reason I like them, it's not just because of Doc. I think a lot of stars are lining up. It is the 76th year. Now, I did this, again, in my old video, in my last channel, when I went ahead and explained that it was the 76th year. I was met with some resistance by people saying, no, it's the 77th year. And that very well may be the case, but I'm going off the NBA narrative. And the NBA narrative was pushing very hard last year that it was the 75th anniversary, and that was the reason I liked Steph Curry so much. That being said, I do think that I'm going to go by this as the 76th year just because that's what the NBA recognized last year as the 75th. I don't know why they would skip the 77. I can say I have a particular individual in mind for 77. But I do think it stands to reason on the 76th year that they're recognizing that Philly would win. What's also interesting is the first ever winners, now it was 76 years ago, was the Philadelphia Warriors. So we just had the Warriors win. I think it would stand to reason Philadelphia wins, and you give Doc his send-off. They're just one of those teams that are right there, so not a ton of the public's going to be hammering them, but their odds aren't ridiculous, so they also make sense as far as Vegas is concerned. So I think... Philly wins. They'll probably give Luka the MVP, which means he won't win it. I don't think Lakers even get in, and they're waiting for Bronny, in my opinion, for LeBron to get it. So I think here it makes perfect sense for the Sixers. And when I think of their dance partner, I think the Clippers make perfect sense because, again, it's his former team. It's a team that I think a lot of people would be interested in seeing a healthy George, a healthy Wall, a healthy Kawhi versus a healthy Harden, a healthy Embiid, and a healthy Maxey. It would just be a very good matchup. So I think it's going to be, and if you notice, they played this year, and Sixers did win them both, so maybe that's a little bit of foreshadowing. I do remember when Golden State beat Boston to open the season last year. People were talking about if that was foreshadowing, but I do think, and I like the Blazers. I think they make a run. I just think it's the year that Doc wins it, and beating the Clippers to me makes way more sense than any of these other teams. I don't think the Warriors get back. I think they're 100% just to get money out of the public. Suns, same thing. Nuggets, Grizzlies, Mavericks, they're going to be your X Factor teams with the Wolves. But I do think it's going to be the Sixers who win it all, and you'll get the Doc redemption story, and they'll win it against the Clippers. So I'm sure there's a lot of dates that also tie in with Doc and tie in with the Sixers, but I'm just going with the ones that I thought were the most obvious. The 76th year. If you want to argue it's the 77th, that's fine, but I do ask why we were acknowledging last year as the 75th. And even beyond the 76 itself, I think there's a lot of stories for the Sixers, for Doc, with how they were treating him, basically saying he had to go. Now he's quietly just turned it around, but they haven't made a big deal about it. Whenever you see these kind of things, it's not a coincidence. And you see the Clippers just kind of hanging in there at 500, but I think they're going to get it going, and they'll explain it's because they finally have a healthy crew. So I just wanted to go into basically everything at once. I thought it'd be the best way to do it. We hit our sequences, which we did really good with tonight, by the way. Like I said, we had a really good night. For those that we didn't close out, like Nebraska, Ohio State, didn't go over. Louisville didn't cover. I got some good college metrics for tomorrow. And we got some NBA tomorrow. And I typically reserve my leg threes for the most obvious, which would be obviously the playoffs, especially on the AFC end. So we'll go into all that, but I like getting these out, and a lot of people have been asking about my predictions. So I thought I wouldn't just predict the finals, but I would predict every single team down to the play-in as far as who I think is going to get in and why. And if you think I snubbed your team, please let me know, and I'll explain why I just don't have them too high up. You can see I have teams like the Kings and Pacers losing quite a few out. I have watched the Kings, and I'll be honest, with Fox, they not just him, they have Huber can go, and they have I can't pronounce his name, Sabonis. They got guys who can go. So the Kings could be one of those teams. I just don't think they're going to edge out the Wolves, the Blazers. They could edge out the Thunder, of course, but I think they might want to do something with the Thunder. So they're going to be my dark horse in the West as far as just team to sneak into the playoffs. And then I think the Lakers don't get in. So you could do some futures if you want, or like I said, if you have a particular team you're curious about, just let me know, and I'll explain why I'm not a fan or why I am a fan. So take care, everybody, and happy earnings.